Or just like to start whenever.
That's it.
So my claim is that the wage gap is a myth. So the wage gap is the claim that women make 76 cents on the dollar for the exact same work just because they're women. I'm going to go over why this is false. So I'm going to go into how it came about, or rather how the claim came about, and why it's wrong. So the reason why is that it's one of the most pervasive myths that we have in our culture. In 2014, Barack Obama, in his State of the Union address, covered it. It's been a thing for over 2 decades. So the wage gap is a result of poor statistical analysis. It's come about because the total earnings of all men and all women, when you compare them, women's earnings are 76% as much as all men's earnings. So this is wrong because it's just a blanket statement. It doesn't control for things like education, occupation, job experience, or hours worked. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, highlights of women's earnings in 2014, the wage gap was 76% in 1992, but in 2014, the total earnings of all men and the total earnings of all women was only 83% of all men. And so explaining this, the disparities in pay are not the result of differences, or are not the result of sexual discrimination, because it's already prohibited under law. It's been prohibited since at least 1964 under the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which prohibit discrimination of employers based upon sex. So the differences in earnings are results of personal choices. Men are more likely to work over 40 hours a week, and women are more likely to work under 40 hours a week. And this is according to a report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from 2015. When factors like location, hours worked, and education and experience are controlled for, the difference between men and women's earnings narrows to around 3%. And further, it can be further explained because women are less likely to, according to a paper published by the National Bureau of Economic Research, women are less likely to negotiate for their salaries. So that's another explanation for discrepancies. And then men and women don't do the exact same work. Women are much more likely to work in social services and education and health services, while men are much more likely to work in STEM fields such as engineering and production. So, and then a final reason for the discrepancy is that women are more likely to work fewer hours or drop out of the workforce to raise children, and when they come back to work, their earning powers are on average 15% less, according to Harvard Business Review. So, in conclusion, the wage gap it's a myth.
All right, Cole, the proposition's clearly identified at the beginning. That's fine. I thought you had a nice definition of what the issue is, talking about and defining what the wage gap is. So that's pretty solid. The contents of the speech, you do have a preview of those contents, but it's phrased as if it's an informative speech. How it can be and why it is wrong, you know, what's wrong happening here. You want declarative sentences for the secondary points. You don't want them to be phrased like questions that you're then going to answer. Your argument should be the answer to those particular points. I also thought there was a little bit of a problem when you got to the body of the speech. You labeled the first point that it's a result of poor statistical analysis, and then everything else is just a random claim. I didn't hear any numerical signposting. I don't know which points go with that argument and which points are distinct to other arguments. I heard a lot of different issues that are being presented, and they're all relevant to the point that you're making, but they don't sound as well organized as they need to. They need to be a little more focused. So those are the big problems in the speech. It was primarily organizational issues. Now, I thought you did a good job explaining the assumptions of the argument. You had good statistical information for the most part, and the thing that I appreciated the most was your citation of the evidence. You were pretty consistent in citing the sources of your information, and I thought that that helped quite a bit. Your explanations are also pretty clear as well, so I think you're doing a good job on those particular points. Like I said, I think it's structural issues that you need to take care of. And your presentation, I think you'd be a little bit more engaged. You're kind of quiet and, I don't want to say dry, but maybe a little bit more energy. However, you dressed very well for the day. Did you raid my closet?